Hilchos Metam'ei Mishkav Umoshav Perek Shloisha Asar. The laws of those that transmit impurity to things that they sit on and lie on. Chapter 13. This is the final chapter of this set of laws. We're going to be dealing again with the laws of Am Ha'aretz, a person who is not careful with the laws of Tumah V'Tara, so things that he touches are under suspicion. And how do we, in certain cases, keep things pure if we want to? If you know that an Am Ha'aretz is going to be involved in a process, is there a way to still make sure that it's going to be staying pure? So the Rambam says the following, Halacha Aleph, Kohen Shatir Kelav Legas Zu. A Kohen, he has a wine press. In those days, everybody had, some kind of farming, agricultural business, either wine, or oil, or fields. So the Kohen has a wine press, and he purifies his utensils for the wine pressing season. As we saw yesterday, 2 days ago, everybody about 70 days before the wine pressing season used to purify all their utensils. So the Kohen does it. V'hinichan lagas haba. But then, he ends up leaving them for the next grape pressing season. Hare'elu becheskasan. Says the Rambam, even though he doesn't watch these utensils necessarily directly from one season to the next, they remain in their presumptive status of being pure. She'ein ami ha'aretz nagin b'kelim shel kohen zeh, she'ein b'seich gitay. Ami ha'aretz will not go and touch utensils that are inside the press of a Kohen. Everybody knows that a Kohen eats truma, so his food has to be to a higher standard. So they wouldn't get close to it. As actually we saw yesterday also, that if the Am Ha'aretz knows that the Kohen eats truma, he's more careful. Aval shel Yisrael tmeyos. But if it's a Jew, a regular Jew does the same thing, me and you, we're not Kohanim. So if we would purify our utensils for one pressing season and then try to leave them in the same place till the next pressing season, it would not stay presumed to be pure. It's actually considered impure. Ad sheyoymar, unless the Jew clearly says, Belibi hayolishmer am ha'aretz she'ikanis lagas shalayiga bekelim. I had it in my heart the entire time to guard that an am ha'aretz who comes into the press is not going to touch my utensils. Halacha beis hareitza lases yenim betara be'umnin am ha'aretz. A Jewish person who is a chaver, he has some wine to press, but he needs employees, he needs workers, yeah? And who are the only workers he could find? Am ha'aretz workers. But he still wants his grapes to be pure. So now, what do? Anything that Am Ha'aretz touches is going to be impure, unless they're in your domain. So how do you take care of this? So first of all, before you do any work, you have to make sure that they go to the mikveh. If they go to the mikveh and they're working under your supervision, we'll see in a minute, then it's pure. Same thing if you were doing oil, right? As in the olden days, you had the olive press, took a lot of work. You put the olives under here, you have to pile up these wheels, these weights, and then this weight over here, and you maneuver this olive press. It's a whole thing. So you wanted to make some oil, and you wanted it to be pure. Matbilas habadadin. You have to have the olive pressers, any employees working for you, go to the mikveh. When they go to the mikveh, v'tzarich lamed al ha'umnin ad sheyidbelu b'fanav. You have to stand there, supervise the mikveh dip. Shari einon yoidin hilchos tvila v'chatzitza. They don't know all the laws of immersion and intervening substances. Yotzu chutz lepesach beis habad. Okay, they came to work. Yeah, they went to the mikveh. Now they're working on the olive press. But they have to leave. And nobody can stay in one place all day. They have to go to the bathroom. They go outside the opening to the olive press. V'nifnu acheri hageder v'chazru. They go to the bathroom behind the fence and they come back. Hare'elu b'tar rasan. They still are pure. Ad kama yarchiku v'hem tahirin. How far can they go and stay pure? Ad kedei shala yisasru me'enav. So long as they're not out of his eyesight. If you can see them, they're good. Once they're blocked from his vision, they go back to being impure till they go to the mikveh again, and they wait till sunset, then they're good. In these scenarios, when you have people working for you that are on the olive press and on the harvesting of grapes and pressing of grapes, if some source of impurity is discovered in front of them, they're believed to say that we didn't touch it. Because since they're under your supervision, we believe them. And also they're believed to say that they didn't touch their kids. Because their kids are not pure, right? They didn't go to the mikveh, only the father went to the mikveh. So they're believed to say that even though my kids were hanging around, I didn't touch them. Halacha dalid hamitayr sabadadin. You purified the people working in the olive press, they went to the mikveh. V'hichnisan lebeis habad, you brought them into the olive press, v'no'al aleihem, and then you locked the door. They're in there by themselves. Im hayusham kelim shenitmu b'midras, if there were in the same room any utensils that became impure, because a zav or any one of the four touched them, harei beis habad kulei tameh. Now you're not watching them. The whole olive press is impure. Shema nagu ba'isam hakelim. Maybe they touch those utensils and then touch the other stuff. And even if before you lock the door, you saw them being careful not to touch those utensils because they knew that they're impure, but it doesn't matter. Once you lock the door, it's all impure. Shema heisitu, because maybe they didn't touch it directly, maybe they caused it to move indirectly. They think that moving indirectly is not going to make you impure. That doesn't make them impure. Because the Am Haaretz are expert in the laws of indirect touching and what kind of impurity that causes. Halacha hey, hayu chamarov upayalav tayanin tarais va'ivrin lefanov. You have a little donkey caravan over here. They're all carrying a bunch of stuff, food that should be pure produce, but they're walking ahead of you. You're on a journey. You, the owner, who's the chaver, is in the back. These workers and donkey drivers that are not really chavers, they're Am Haaretzes, they're in the front. Afal pisha hifligu yeser mimil. Even if they go more than a mile ahead of you, loosely, okay, mil is about a mile. Hare'elu tahiris. They stay pure. Mipnei shehin becheskas shehu shaimran. Because they're always presumed that you're guarding them. Vehin mefachadin liga. They are afraid to touch the produce. Va'imrim, and they say, achshav yavai. He's going to come now. Shareu acharenu, because he's behind us. Commentaries say that there has to be a case where the utensils that they're in are pottery. Otherwise, just the touching of the utensils makes the whole thing tummy. Avolim amar lehem, but if the owner said, you guys go ahead, I'll come after you. So he already communicated that he's not going to be hanging around close supervision. Once they are away from his eyes, he can't see them anymore, now they're all impure. Vav. Chaver shahaya lavush b'chaluk v'atuf b'talis u'mehalech. A chaver is wearing two layers. He's wearing a cloak, and then he's also wearing a talis above that, more of a loose shawl. And he's walking, and he said, in my heart I was careful about the cloak. I was watching the cloak that it shouldn't touch anything questionable. But the shawl, I diverted my mind from. I wasn't paying attention so closely. So the cloak is pure, but the shawl is impure. It's very possible while you're walking down the street, some guy rubs you on the side, an Am Haaretz, and he makes your shawl impure. Similar concept. You're having a basket on your shoulder, and there's a little fork inside the basket. Magrefa was used typically to separate figs. They used to make these fig cakes, a bunch of figs pressed together, then you had a magrefa which would pick it apart, separate it. V'amar, and you say the same thing. I was trying to guard the basket, and I was even guarding the fork from a thing which makes it tameh, but not from things that make it pasul. This is a very important distinction we're going to have at length in the next set of laws. Tameh means you're impure to the point that you could also make other things impure. If something is tameh, that means it itself is impure and has the power to transmit it. If something is pasul, that means that it's impure, but it won't make others impure. So he says, I was watching the fork that it shouldn't get affected by something which would make it tameh, impure and powerful to pass it on, but I wasn't watching that it would be touched by something lower degree, which would only disqualify it, but not give it the power to make other things impure. Hasal tahar, so we say the basket is pure, and the fork is impure. And because it's impure, if there's truma food in the basket, it's also disqualified. Because of the fork, which disqualifies the food in the basket. Because the magrefa becomes tameh, even though you were guarding it from things which become tameh. But since you weren't guarding it from things which will make it pasul, so it actually becomes tameh, and then would transmit the impurity to whatever's in the basket at the rate of pasul, making it disqualified but not powerful enough to make other things impure, and therefore the truma inside it is problematic. Let's say a person was using things in a barrel, thinking that it's chulin, treating it with purity, and then he discovers that it's truma. Even though it's pure, you cannot eat it. Because maybe a person who went to the mikvah but didn't have sunset yet, he touched it, which as we're going to explain in the next set of laws, he makes truma disqualified but not chulin. And so, you have to assume that it's pure, but you can't eat it. You can't compare somebody watching something for truma or watching it as regular food who's going to be less careful. But if he had said, "Belibi haya l'shamra, afilu midavar hapoisla," I was watching it even from things that would make it lower level, just puzzle, not powerful enough to make other things impure. Then the barrel is permitted to be eaten, because then even on a truma standard it's fine, and it's okay to be eaten. A person got mixed up between Shabbos clothes and weekday clothes, or Shabbos utensils with weekday utensils. It has to be clothes. Yeah, he wears them. Nitmu, they become impure. Nobody guards weekday clothes like you guard Shabbos clothes. So it was a story of two women who were both chaver. That means they were both scrupulous for impurity, and they went to the bathhouse and they switched their clothes. The story came to the sages and they made everything impure. Why? Because once you're not watching your clothes, you're not careful anymore. Even if a little cloth fell down from her, and she said to a chaver, "Tnehali, give it to me," and Allah, and he gave it to her, nitmes. It becomes impure. Why? They're both chavers. As a decree, because perhaps an am haaretz will give it to her, or the chaver won't be watching it. You don't watch other people's clothes like your own clothes. Unless you're letting him know that you're relying on him. Halacha zayin. Chaver shemeis v'hiniach tares. If a chaver dies and he left in his possession some pure produce, they can be assumed to be pure. A chaver watches everything in his possession. Hiniach kelim, but if he just left utensils, you must assume that they're impure. Because I can say, even though a chaver is careful about laws of impurity, sheman nitmu, maybe before he died they became impure from corpse impurity. And he only managed to sprinkle on them one of the times out of two. Remember in the earlier laws, right? Once something becomes impure from tumas meis, it needs to be sprinkled twice, third day and seventh day. Maybe he only sprinkled third day and died before the seventh day. Or maybe he sprinkled it on the seventh day as well, but he didn't put it in the mikveh. Or no sprinkling at all. So food is going to be pure, but utensils not. If a single witness tells you, you should know you have some food in your backyard, it became impure. I saw it become impure. And the other guy is being quiet. Or he says, I don't know. He's not responding with a definite comeback. The single witness is believed, and they're going to be considered impure. Because for matters of Isur, ritual law, we believe a single witness. But if he contradicts him directly, he says, no, they didn't become impure. I know they didn't become impure. So now they're presumed to be pure until two people come and testify that they're impure. Let's say a Jew was working with a fellow Jew with pure produce or with sacrificial meat. After some time later, he finds him. They meet up again. And then when they meet up, he tells him, that day we were working together, nitmu. The pure produce that I was working with you actually became impure. I didn't tell you back then. The sacrificial meat we were working together with, it became pigul. It became disqualified. He's believed. Single witness. But if when they met up the first time, he didn't say anything, then they met up again and he says that statement, he's not believed. His sacrifices are still holy, are still kosher, and his pure produce is considered to be pure. Blessed is Hashem, who grants us assistance. Mazel tov for concluding the laws of Metam'ei, Mishkav, Umoshav.